Hi guys, it's Mrs. Klein.
And Mrs. Wolbrin. Welcome to U.S. History.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! This is our first podcast.
First podcast of the year, you guys.
So if it's bumpy, you will understand why. We are going to start with our first unit. It's actually Unit 2. It's called Revolution in the Colonies. Throughout this unit, you'll learn about the development of American constitutional democracy. Use these guiding questions to focus your studies. Why was there an American Revolution? How did the American Revolution develop the concept of natural rights? And what were the legacies of the American Revolution?
All right, you guys, it'd be awesome if you had your history book out and open to pages 84 and 85 right now. We're going to talk about Unit 2, Setting the Stage, the 13 colonies mapping activity that you will be doing probably in class tomorrow. But I'd like for you to be looking at the maps while you're listening to this. Okay, Revolution in the Colonies. In this unit, you'll learn why some colonists wanted to replace British rule with an independent government. You will also learn about the long, difficult struggle to gain that independence. In the 1760s, Great Britain began passing new trade and tax laws for the colonies and enforcing old laws passed years before. Picture a southern rice farmer who is required by law to sell his crop only to England, even if he might get a higher price elsewhere. Or think of a northern merchant having to pay a new tax on paper, a tax imposed by a distant government in which he had no representation. How do you think they felt about such laws and taxes? Colonists who supported Great Britain's policies and British rule were known as loyalists. Those who resisted called themselves patriots. When the colonies declared independence, patriots were opposed by many loyalists as well as British troops. The map, the 13 colonies, 1775 on page 84, shows the physical geography of the 13 colonies. Knowing the land was one advantage patriot forces had over British troops in the American Revolution. The population density map shows where the colonists lived in 1775, and the last map shows where loyalist support was strong. These settlement patterns, along with the colony's physical geography and regions of loyalist strength, helped to shape the military strategies of the revolution.
Okay, now if you would like to follow along in your book, we're going to go to page 87. First thing you need to know, important vocabulary for lesson 5. First of all, the name of this lesson is Toward Independence, and your vocabulary: boycott, militia, repeal, and tyranny.
Hey, you guys, there's an essential question too. Mrs. Wolbrin already alluded to it earlier, but it's why was there an American Revolution?
Okay, here we go. An almost full moon cast a pale light over Boston on April 18th, 1775, but the night was anything but quiet. Mounted on a fast horse named Brown Beauty, Paul Revere woke up the countryside with the alarming news that British troops stationed in Boston had orders to march to the nearby town of Concord and seize weapons the colonists had stored there. This, this was news patriots had been waiting for. Patriots, also called Whigs, were Americans who believed the colonies had the right to govern themselves. On hearing Revere's warning, patriots around Concord grabbed their muskets and prepared to meet the advancing British troops.
The same news filled loyalists, also called Tories, with dread. Loyalists were colonists who felt a deep loyalty to Great Britain. They saw themselves as faithful subjects of the king and were horrified by the idea of taking up arms against British troops. How did colonists come to be so divided in their feelings about the British? Most Americans were content with British rule in the early 1700s. However, this relationship between Great Britain and the colonies would quickly begin to change. In the 1750s, Great Britain and the colonies fought a war against the French and their Indian allies that left Great Britain with huge debts and a vast new empire to protect. To solve these problems, the British government passed new laws that tightened its control of the colonies. Some of these laws also placed new taxes on the colonists.
Colonists were stunned when Great Britain suddenly changed the rules. For the most part, they had been able to make their own laws and determine their own taxes. Now, angry colonists protested. In this lesson, you will see how these feelings led many colonists to consider rebelling against their government.